Cumberland traffic, tow plane 4041, uniform departing 11 glider and test.
Welcome to Soaring the Sky, Glider Pilots Podcast. Hello, my name is Chuck. I'll be your host. This is episode 35. This episode is brought to you by Arizona Soaring Incorporated, the nation's largest provider of professional glider training. Since 1969, they provided training from initial private through CFI glider and entry level through advanced aerobatics. Open year-round, 7 days a week. More information is available at azsoaring.com. Today on the podcast, we welcome Luca Bertossio. Luca is an Italian born in Italy in 1990 and has already achieved over 3,000 hours of flight time. He has over 3,500 flights in aerobatics. His power experience includes 900 hours of PPL. He is also an aerobatic instructor as well as an airshow pilot for Red Bull. Luca has 7 gold FAI medals, 7 silver FAI medals, 4 bronze FAI medals, and has the official Federation Aeronautic International titles of Vice World Advanced Glider Aerobatics Champion in 2011 with 2 silver medals, World Advanced Glider Aerobatic Champion 2012, 4 gold medals, Vice World Unlimited Glider Aerobatic Champion 2015, 2 silver, 1 bronze. World Air Games Olympic Champion 2015, 2 gold and 2 bronze. Vice World Games Olympic Champion 2017. Vice World Unlimited Champion 2018, 1 silver and 1 gold. Bertossio reached the best placement in a glider aerobatics world championship for Italy. Luca is the youngest pilot to win the FAI World Air Games in Dubai in 2015. Please welcome to the podcast, Luca Bertossio. Luca's so excited to have you on the podcast today. How are you?
I'm good, Chuck. Thank you very much, and it's my great honor and pleasure to talk with you and for this great podcast that I'm looking for since a while. So I'm very happy to be here.
Thank you very much. You have a very interesting aviation adventure that you've been on. So if you could start from the beginning, where did everything get started?
Basically, I started to be involved in aviation when I was just 11 because my dad still works in Russia. So I've always been used to go to the airport and say goodbye to him because he would stay away, abroad for like 3 or 4 months in a row. So I was very sad when I was going to say goodbye to him, but I was so happy when he came back, So I was just a kid, and I realized that the only thing that brought my dad back was the airplane. So I just thought in my mind, if I stay on the airplane, I could stay more with him, you know what I mean? So that's how aviation infected me. And from that moment, I started to be more interested in, aviation subjects and start to studies on the books. I bought some books to study, even if I was so young, but I was so interested in everything around this magic word. And my dream was, my goal was to become an airline pilot. And so I made my high school, and then I got my ultralight license. We got these sort of things here in Europe. And then my private pilot license as well when I was 17. And then I started to be a tow pilot to, make some time building to get my commercial licenses. And at some point during these years, when I was 19, between 19 and 20 years old, more or less, I just tried to fly a glider because I was towing gliders every day. And one day I said, okay, I want to try. What does it mean to fly these machines? And the first impression was, it was so simple machine, but so difficult at the same time to fly correctly. And it was like, an instant that made me feel in love with this. And from that moment, I got my glider license with some sacrifices. I got the licenses, and just few weeks after the skill test, I made the first 2 national championship, because during my training, I was already training for gliding aerobatics. And so just after the exam, I won the two national championship. Of course, the first level of difficulty, but it was a national title. So that's how the thing started. And from that moment, everything went so fast, and so it was an escalation of moment and goals. After you got a goal like that at so young age, you want more and more and more. And so the year after my license in 2011, I was 21, and there was the chance to fly at the World Advanced Glider Aerobatic Championship in Poland. And for me, it was like a crazy idea because, I mean, the level was so high, and I just got my license and get into this sport, and I only had like 7 months to prepare myself to have a coach that could follow me and bring me up to the level. And I never went and never had the idea to compete in the world championship to score something different than the first place. That's my mentality. So I put all myself on my efforts and savings as well to have a good training, to have the best coach around, which is Sándor Katona, my actual coach. He's Hungarian, 82 years old, but it's Ironman. It's an Ironman, really. So he brought me at that level, and in the first flight at the World Advanced Glider Aerobatic Championship, I scored the second place in the program. So I got a silver medal for the non-compulsory program. And after that, I just realized, Luca, you can do that. I mean, you can win the overall thing. And it was impressive because I hardly stayed up there in the ranking. But in the end, I couldn't reach the top because the other pilot was, flying way better in the unknowns program, which are the programs where basically you really need to have a deep knowledge of the figures and let's say a pretty good experience of competition if you want to fly them good, because it's a program where you have to fly a program where all the figures have been selected by the other countries and pilots, representative, of course. So you really need to be skilled, and it's not just a matter of pure luck or your personal skill. You just need to be trained to fly all the catalog figures. So I end up in the second place in my first World Championship in advanced category. So I really believe in that moment that something was going on, something big was going on. And the next year, 2012, I realized that there were only two chances for me. Be better than the previous year, so just win the whole thing, or just be worse. And for me, it was just so clear that the option number one was the only one that could happen in my life. And the problem was that I had not enough savings or funds to compete in the World Championship, even because I wanted to train it to be trained deeper. And so I made a fundraising, and a lot of people supported me to have a very nice training. And my motivation was so high because I couldn't give up with this project, and I couldn't just make something which was different than the first place. So I won 4 gold medals and the title of World Advanced Glider Aerobatic Champion. And after that, I realized that this was my dream, of course, but I had to find a way to survive, because that would be difficult. That would have been difficult for the next years to come to continue, because it's very expensive and challenging. So I need or a work, or I need to make this become my job. And that's how I made. So I started with emails, with phone calls, with projects, and the first sponsors comes. I've been lucky also on that side. My first sponsor was Sparco, very nice company that made me the flight suit, and we started to create this image and brand of let's say Luca Bertossio gliding aerobatics. And of course, from the media side, those years were the first where the GoPro, came up. So, and YouTube was starting to pump. So I started to upload videos, to make my editing, because I just wanted to share how beautiful is what I'm doing. I never had the mentality to share what I'm doing because I'm the best or something like that, but just because this is beautiful. And if my videos can, bring some other guy, some other children to do what I'm doing and to enjoy the things as I'm doing, well, that would be enough for me. I would feel so happy about. And the next years, well, I tried to get short on that, but basically Citizen Watches came, and we started with a really professional image of professional pilot in the airshow business. And I started with air shows in 2013 as a professional pilot. So as a job, I started with Venice Air Show, and then all the others came up, Athens, and step by step up to the top level air shows. And I can say that in one of the best moments I can remember was my first ever air show in the United States, which was Oshkosh. And for me, it was kind of a dream because, you see those things, and when you are there, when you're in, you don't actually realize how that was possible. You don't think about. You just try to enjoy in every instant, every moment. So after that, I joined Sun and Fun also in 2018, 1 year ago. And for the rest, I'm an unlimited flight instructor. So I'm running my business here in Bologna at Fly Ozzano. It's a very nice airfield with a historical plane collection, from Stearman to Sea Fury to Yak 11, Extra 330, and now I'm flying here with the MDM Fox, the best aerobatic two-seater glider in the world, and of course training with the Zwift S1, which is the single seat where I competed in Dubai and everywhere else where I won the championship. That's short version.
Well, that is an amazing story. You're trying to build time because you want to be an airline pilot. So, a lot of people do that by flying, the tow plane, and then you discover gliders, and wow, that's wild. Then it just goes on to that.
Yeah, I mean, flying gliders. Another thing that I forgot to mention is that I've never been so interested or excited about soaring, but not because I don't like it, but just because it didn't took my heart as much as aerobatics did. Because for me, aerobatics is the pure essence of flying the plane, and gliding aerobatics is flying the plane without any filter, without any excuses. You have no filters, you have no instruments, you have no, let's say, nothing else to think about. You just have to fly the plane and manage your energy, your movements, and the elegance that is within itself of a glider. It's something really magic. It's not a fixed plate of carbon fiber that is moving in the sky. Is something which is like living in the air because it flex, it whistles. It's something so different than anything else. No vibration, just pure symmetry, no torque effect, no P factor, nothing. Just the air and a pair of wings. So my journey is not from A to B, like soaring, but is from myself, my level, my skills, my knowledge to the perfection. Is the pursuit to the perfection what is really all about.
Well, Luca, if I could ask you, speaking of being in the air and doing the aerobatics, if you jump, if we were to jump in the cockpit with you, could you kind of walk me through an aerobatic routine and what you need to do from the ground on up to the actual flying?
Yeah, I can run you through my airshow sequence of 2019, which is, let's say, the evolution of all these years of aerobatics. So the sequence starts at 5,500 feet above the ground, in front of the public, about 3/4 of a miles in front, because you always have to think that the people don't have to break their neck to see you. So you have to fly, let's say, 45, 50 degrees above their eyes, which is very important for the perspective side. And my first figure is a horizontal heart. So I start in front of the public at 80 knots, and I put the first series of smoke on, and I make the music start, because my flight is always synchronized with the music, and I actually listen to the music that is playing in the cockpit, so I can adjust myself in timing and positioning according to the music. So the first figure is an horizontal heart. I fly straight to the public, turn left about 120 degrees, and make the first part of the heart. Fly for around 20 seconds, then 90 degrees again left, and continue to fly, just looking at the center of the heart, where you can see the smoke that I left just passing by 30 seconds ago. And then continue the left turn to close the heart. And while I am in the center of the heart, I wait for the music kick, and I enter in an accelerated positive spin to the left. And I made about, let me think, about 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 3/4 turn. And I exit to the right of the public. And at that point, I make 1.5 roll to the right and 2/4 roll to the left, and then I pull again for a half cubanate, and on the top of the half cubanate I make 3/4 roll to the left until the knife edge position. From that position I make 1.25 positive snap to the right, and as soon as I stop it, 1 full positive snap roll to the left, and I keep the 45 degrees angle. Then I pull out at 140 knots, and the next figure is the avalanche, flown in a certain way that you can draw another little heart if you just fly it in a certain way. So from the audience perspective, the little heart will just go inside the big ones that is still there in the air, drawn by the smokes. So the perspective thing is super nice and romantic. People love it. And after that, I exit again 130, 135 knots, a little bit to the right to take some place, to get a little bit far from the public. I pull up 55 degrees, 1/4 to the left, and a complete negative snap roll to the left again. And this is my crossbox figure, because I realized that I don't like doing quarters down in like in Aresti style in air show, because it's like I change my direction, look at this. I would like the whole sequence is a unique movement, something like that, with pose, with rhythm, but a unique movement. You never have. I would never give the idea to the public that I am changing or that I am deciding something different than what is the flow that they perceive. After that, I come again in front of the public. I have a, let's say, a joker figure, which is a roll in front of the people, and I use this roll to get closer to the people. If the wind push me so far, then I can use a roll to gain some feet closer. And then finally comes my signature figure, which is the helicopter, which is basically a negative flat spin that which is induced by a positive snap roll on a vertical line after 1/8 of rotation to the left. So the glider basically is climbing, rotating flat in a left negative spin, and as soon as it makes 1 3/4 rotation, At that point, an evolution of this figure that I managed to recreate in these years is to change from negative flat to positive left. So it's very cool movement. It's like a really nice movement that you can see in all of my air shows. And after that, the altitude is about, let me think, about 2,500 feet. So it's time to think about the low part of the show, where you have to be more careful about the snap rolls, managements, and in general about your energy, because you have really to think about what is going on now. So you have so many checkpoints from that moment on, because with gliders you can never change your decisions once you made them. Most of the time is like that. So when you're flying low, inverted, fast, you really have to be 100% sure of what you're doing. So after the helicopter, I come by the side again in the center of the box, and I do the tail slide, negative tail slide. So I climb vertically, pulling 8G until I stop in the vertical position, and from flying forward, I start to fly backwards, and you can see the smokes just changing direction from the cockpit, and that's one amazing moment from me as a pilot. And people always make like, wow, what is going on? Is flying backwards. And after that, I'm again on the vertical down this time, and I push -6G to exit from vertical to horizontal flight, inverted flight again. And from that moment, I make a very nice loop, perfect shape loop. I try at least to do that in front of the audience, 270 degrees to the right, and climbing, I will make a roll into the center of the circle. And this figure is named the target, because it's really nice to think about how a glider without an engine, of course, can fly a loop and then go inside of it and just pass through like an arrow. It's so cool. At that point, I am about, I'm about 700, 800 feet. And what I'm going to do depends by the situation, by the wind, by the orographic settlements of the field. So usually I always do horizontal figures. So basically I make some turns and prepare myself to make a 4-point roll, or 1.5 from one side and half to the other. So some horizontal roll to say hello to the audience, and then downwind and base leg gear down, and final for the active runway, and landing in front of the public, let's say, and standing up in the cockpit. That's another thing that I like to do, because it's like Bob Hoover was doing. It's let's say something in his honor, in his memory, jumping on the cockpit and say hello to the audience. Yeah.
Wow.
So that's more or less what I'm doing. It's hard to imagine, but YouTube is full of this, so you can then listen again this thing and follow up my show on YouTube.
Yeah, so they can check it out if, of
yeah.
course, they want to check it out and see what you're talking about. That's an amazing description, though. I felt like I was right there with you doing those moves.
Yeah, my English is not so good, but I try, because it's harder with words than with than to see it. I mean, so if they check it on YouTube, my airshow sequences, it's easier to visualize what I'm doing.
No, I think you did a great job. That was it was very cool. Like I said, I felt like I was right there with you flying through those maneuvers.
Thank you.
How long does that take? You take off and then you do all your maneuvers and then you land. About how much time does that take doing all that?
That depends a lot on the top end machine, that you got. So with the extra 330 LX that I use for a lot of shows here in Italy and Europe, well, it took 3 minutes to climb to 5,500, and about 4/5 minutes from release to touchdown, something like that.
Okay. That's a lot going on in those few minutes.
Oh yeah, it's super fast. I mean, when you are there, you feel like the time is changing the meaning. I mean, you got like a time compression. So especially in inverted fly or in negative Gs. 5 seconds are like 10 seconds. I'm not kidding. I mean, it's just what I realized in these 10 years of aerobatics. Just changed the way you feel, the time passing by. And another thing that I really wish to say is that there is a substantial and so huge difference between the mentality of flying an air show and flying a competition. This is a totally different thing from my side, because in the air show you are kind of aware of your positioning, you're kind of aware of having the good effect of the smoke with the light to find the right place to make the best picture, because you are flying for the public, you are flying to give emotions to the audience, to the general audience. While in competition, you are just flying to have points, to have good marks. So that's completely different way to fly, style and mentality. And for me, I love them both. If I could choose, for me as a pilot, of course, flying a competition is really all what I need as a pilot. Flying an airshow is cool because of the environment, because of the people clapping their hands and say, "Well done, Luca." But in the end, is the pilot satisfaction to fly a very nice program, an excellent program, and to fly better than the others. So that's a good thing that I really wanted to mention for your podcast.
So are you looking to do any competitions as far as racing later on, or are you going to stay in the aerobatics?
Well, my plans would be to fly the 2020 World Championship again, because this year I couldn't participate to the World Championship in Romania because I was so busy with my studies. It was not a perfect year with the sponsors, so I truly hope that next year I can be able to fly again the World Championship in Poland.
I'm sure you will get there. If we want to follow you and keep track what you're doing and watch your flying, I know you're on Instagram. What are some good ways to follow you?
Yeah, the best way is, of course, to follow me on Instagram, which is now the main platform, main social platform where I communicate. And then, of course, YouTube channel. My YouTube channel now is kind of inactive because I'm really struggling to create new videos due to the timing. Because to edit a video takes a lot of time, takes some good inspiration that I always have, but sometimes I don't have so much time. So to resume it, Instagram is a perfect way to follow me. I got a lot of information on my website, bertossio.com or .it, whatever you wish. YouTube channel to see all the videos from the airshows as well. And Facebook, of course, my page, Luca Bertossio Aerobatics. That's the way.
Oh, very cool. I will definitely put those in the show notes, and people can keep an eye on what's going on with you. Back when I was first beginning my training on flying gliders, that was one of the first places I went, YouTube, and I was checking out your videos. So that was kind of my first exposure to Luca, but it was very cool and it was very inspiring, and it just kind of pushed me to go further.
Thank you, man. Thank you very much. People like you saying these things are one of the big reasons that I'm keep doing what I'm doing, even if it's hard sometimes, because the behind the scene is something that is not always on Instagram, not always on the first, let's say, view of my activity. But the behind the scene is very hard, but the result worth it. So I will keep doing that, and thank you very much for saying that. It really means so much to me.
Absolutely. Those videos were quite amazing, and some of my first exposure to aerobatics, and I was wow. Very cool stuff that you're doing. Lots of hard work, but very cool.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Now, are you doing some instructing as well?
Yeah. In the, let's say, autumn and winter and springtime, I'm a flight instructor, and I love to instruct people to fly aerobatics. And I'm running here the the center with my friends and colleagues in Bologna. So any guy who wants to come here, make a stage with me, make a training session, they are more than welcome. They can contact me through my website. And yeah, I mean, I can bring people from zero to hero.
So if I could ask you, I like to ask everybody, and I know you've had some amazing aviation adventures and some amazing flights, but is there particularly one of them that maybe stands out? It could be from the beginning when you started flying gliders. Is there a flight that stands out that really struck you as wow? What an amazing flight.
It's not an easy question because there were a lot of wow moments. I mean, really, every time I say, okay, this is the best, the next time comes another and say, wow, this is the best. So that's the good part of my job. But what can I say? Well, after the release in Oshkosh, yeah, that was a moment where I realized, wow, there's a bunch of people out there looking at me. So that was, I felt all the eyes of the people watching me. That was a very nice sightseeing. And in competition, there is a moment, in 2012, in the last program of the championship, I realized that if I didn't make any big mistakes, I would win. So I realized that I made it, and that was a priceless moment. There is a video on YouTube, I guess, where I'm screaming like a crazy boy, that saying like, "Yeah, we're world champion," something like that. That was probably one of the cool moments. Then Dubai, I mean, all the sunset where I fly. When I fly in the sunset, I can remember the sunset over Greece, which was kind of so much red sky. It was impressive. Or just a few days ago, I flown near Padova here in the northern Italy, and the sky was purple. Man, I never ever seen a sky so much purple when I was flying with sparklings and all the FX effects that I have on the glider. So every day is something that made me say, wow.
So I know that you have to take a lot of safety precautions as a glider, especially as an aerobatic pilot. What would be some advice on how to be a safer pilot?
Yeah, that's very important because safety is always in the first place of my routine. You have to start to analyze yourself. How are you doing today? What's the mission? What's the environment? All the classic things that you read on the books while you're studying, those things are super real because they all count. They all means at some point. And your training is the most important item for your safety, most important filter for yourself, for your safety. So guys, for example, just to give you a short advice, before the takeoff, try to analyze where you are, what are you flying, what is going to happen in the next seconds, minutes. Try always to analyze what would you do if. The if is the really most important suggestion that I can give you and that you have to think about. What happened if? I don't mean by saying that you have to be every time so stressful about okay, now what happened if, every time of your life during also a flight, because otherwise that the joy of flight became like a stress. So it has not to be like that, but take 5 minutes, relax, just take that time for yourself to think about what happened if, I don't know, I break the rope on takeoff, if windstorm coming, or if anything. Take 5 minutes, analyze what you can, and then relax and enjoy the thing, because you already pass into your brain your actions, your automatic motor programs that you are going to activate in case of any problem. So always work in advance of the situations. It's very important.
Very good advice. Like you said, safety's first. And I know you, being an aerobatic pilot, have gone through so much to learn how to be safe. And
scary situations too. Yeah.
I'm sure. Your maneuvers when you're doing like a flat spin, it's like, wow, I don't even know if I could put myself into that sort to get out of it, but I know you've been trained on what to do to do all those maneuvers.
I use a lot of simulator. Condor is very good to simulate gliding aerobatics as well, not just soaring. So I really used a lot of it. So spent so many hours on the simulator. So many.
Condor is definitely great. I've used it myself in the wintertime when I'm not able to get out there and fly the glider. And in the spring, I definitely feel like I'm more ready than if I hadn't done anything during the winter.
Yeah, if you approach it as a serious training, not just as a game, of course it works. Yeah, I mean, our brain cannot feel the difference between a real thing or something that you imagine. And sometimes imagining the thing, visualizing the thing, is even more difficult than, leave it from real. So, yeah. Next years are going to be maybe a little bit different than what people get used to see from my side, because I'm starting to become an airline pilot. So I truly wish to keep going what I'm doing, and I will do my best. There will be some years, some months, some seasons where maybe I'll not be so present, so active as I've done now for 10 years. And next year, 2020, is my 10th year of aerobatics, so I'm preparing something special. And what else? Stay tuned, fly safe, and fly with passion, which is really what it's all about.
Luca, thank you so much for taking your time and joining me. I know you are a very busy man, so I greatly appreciate that.
My pleasure, Chuck. It was very nice to talk to you, and congrats for your amazing podcast.
Thank you, sir. And thank you for listening to another episode of Soaring in the Sky. If you want to check out some pictures we posted of Luca, as well as our other guest pilots we've had on the podcast, love for you to do that at soaringthesky.com. And while you're online, as always, the SSA.org, a great place for some great information about soaring and a great place to find your first glider ride. Instagram, social media, we're there, as well as Facebook, Soaring the Sky podcast for both of those. Once again, I would love to hear from you. If you're a pilot, you have a story to share, Chuck at soaringthesky.com. If you're a listener and you just want to say hi, feel free to drop me a line, Chuck at soaringthesky.com. We hope you join us next week for another great guest right here on Soaring the Sky.